about to start us up. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's get it for our tips round 9, and we're already on. Hey guys, how you going? So BKRsport. We're here for round 9 of the NRL season tips. Obviously, we do this every single week, usually on a Tuesday. But as you guys are fully aware, we had the Roosters and the Dragons game yesterday for Anzac Day, alongside the Melbourne Storm taking on the New Zealand Warriors, which was a good couple of games. Really good couple of games there. But then again, this season is just so fantastic at the moment that there is just good games every single game, really. Like, truly, every single game has something about it, which makes it really interesting, exciting, and fantastic. And I just say this every single week. This season is the closest to date. From 16th, which is the Bulldogs, all the way up to Manly in second, there's legitimately like 2 wins between them. It's like 2 wins between 16th and second, which tells you a lot about the competitiveness of this season. And it is just every week we're just getting thrown absolute curveballs left, right, and centre. And only the strong survive, baby. You know, only the strong survive in a season like this, where you have all this hope and passion, and you just got to keep on cracking on. Despite maybe your team loses, they're still absolutely in the hunt. Every single team, probably besides the Tigers, are still in the hunt. And technically, you could say that the Tigers aren't completely out of it, but they're also kind of completely out of it already. But yeah, as you guys know, we do our tipping stream here live with the chat. Obviously, if you guys are watching this after it's gone live and weren't here, there will be timestamps for each individual game as we go through all games this weekend. Now, there is a bye for the Melbourne Storm, obviously. But yes, there will be a timestamp for every single game, so you can go and squeeze through for your individual, the one that you are looking for. Some tough games. There is, again, some tough games this week. There's just a lot up in the air about a lot of these teams that you just don't know if they're 100% positive or 100% negative right now. Every team has their positives, and every team also has a massive negatives as well. So it won't be easy. Again, I think I had a pretty good week last weekend. A pretty good weekend for most of my tips, but you know, it just is what it is. You just got to keep doing you and keep backing it in. Hey, you just got to back yourself in, and it's a very hard year to predict. That's for sure. That is for sure. But obviously, if you guys don't know how this is going to go, we do go through every single game individually. We'll analyze it. I'll talk about it. I'll look at the team list. And then we'll talk about what my prediction is, and then we're going to go to the chat and see what you guys are saying to kind of bounce off and see if you guys agree, disagree, and let's see if you can convince me to change my tip, Baruna. You know, we can see if you can do a little bit of convincing, right? But no, it's all good fun. Have a laugh, obviously, get amongst the chat. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here. Now let's quickly have a look at the chat here before we do get started to see what you guys are up to. R. Nichols says, go to Warriors. Colin Kennedy says, hi, hey mate. But yeah, Nichols with Warriors, you know, that was a tough one yesterday, obviously. They gave it a really good go, and it was a real commendable effort by the Warriors. Obviously, the Storm won at the end there, which did really, really suck. It really did suck there for you Wars fans, but you can't be upset with that performance. A lot of injuries there to the team, which we'll obviously get into today when we talk about the Warriors. They do get to go back home, which is great. I would love to see an Anzac Day clash over there in New Zealand next year. That would be fantastic to see. Obviously, the last couple of years it hasn't been able to happen due to the fact of the COVID and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is now we're ready to rock and roll. We're giving them a game, so it'd be good to see. But yeah, look, I wouldn't be too disappointed with how that game did result. I think your team is still pretty decent, man. Charlie Piper says, how is everyone thinking the Broncos to win over the Bunnies? Zeno Shaw says, hello. Chris Sames getting around it. Star Wars Fanboy says, bye-bye Flano. I have seen that. There for the Dogs. Obviously, it's just going to be in full, make sure that we're competitive this season mode, rather than, just continuously stick. Well, not even just that. Sorry, of course you're going to be competitive. You're going to try and be competitive this season, but I think it's just that they know that Flano's not the guy for them. So, yes, obviously they're adjusting it, and if it doesn't work out, well, you know, there's no real loss there per se, is what their belief would be, is that they can replace him, and no matter what, the season's either going to go downhill regardless of that. So I think it's the right decision there, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Mason Mills says, Supercoach. Yeah, my Supercoach didn't do too great this week, mate. I think I got about just over 1,000, which is nothing great. It's nothing great at all. I saw a lot of people getting under 800, 900 though, which is insane. I think Antonio got around 1,000. Antonio ended up getting around 1,000. Cowboys fans says Manly have a poor record with Turbo injured. Yeah, not sure if Turbo will play or not. We'll get into that. That's a 50-50. I'm pretty certain he will, but there's a 50-50. Freezing Moose, are you heading to the Seagulls-Titans game this week, Blaze? I'm at every single Titans game this year, man. And definitely after last week, you know, I've got to make sure. Like, I can tell you right now, with my, with the headspace of Titans fans, it's not easy to pick yourself back up and and fly down to Manly and also go all the way up to Manly from the airport and whatnot, northern side of Sydney, northern side of the Harbour Bridge, and pick yourself up after a loss like that, right? But the fact of the matter is that I'm here, man. I'm going to every single game this season, and no matter how tough it is, it's just we do what we do, bro. We do what we do. Zeno Short says, I hope not, because I'm a Manly fan. No, you definitely hope the Titans win for sure. Brighton says, Queensland, get around the Queensland W, son. It's time to start getting around the Origin. It's getting closer. It's getting closer, that's for sure. EA says, up Cronulla. Harper Sutherland says, have you tipped the first game yet? No, I have not tipped any game yet, Harper. We're just doing a little bit of a chat here, and then we'll get into it in just a few moments. Logie Villain says, imagine Tigers beating Panthers, which I hardly think won't happen. Apparently, the Panthers are going to... Well, I did hear that the Panthers are resting players, but I'm not too sure. I haven't checked the team list yet. Chris Sam says, see, as we said last week with the Thursday curse, once you break it, you don't go back up to bunnies. Yeah, once you break it, you don't go back, mate. The Thursday curse, I get it right, and then I get it right again. If you guys don't know what the Thursday curse is, usually I can't tip the Thursday game to save my life. For the first, I think, 6 weeks of the competition, I got one correct, which is the Panthers over the Rabbitohs in round 2. Besides that, I got every Thursday game wrong. But then I tipped the Rabbitohs against the Dolphins, obviously they got up, and then I took the Rabbitohs against the Panthers in the return game, and they got up. So get around the, not the Chooks, shit whiz, get around the Rabbits, man. They've been helping me out with those Thursday games for sure. Tyrock says, my mates have given it to me after the Titans game. Yeah, thanks, mate. Yep, yeah, we know. I know, man. There's probably not many others who know as much as that as I do right now, bro. I got slapped. But in the same sense, it is what it is. You just got to back your team in, support them through it all. But let's get to the first game here, guys. Let's get into the tips for the day. So obviously hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. The first game is the Cronulla Sharks taking on the North Queensland Cowboys there at PointsBet Stadium, Sharky Park there. Sharks are in 5th place. The Cowboys are in 15th, but obviously that can dramatically change with how close the table is right now. So every game is a must-win. And not every game is normally a must-win. Yes, obviously you want to win every game for sure, but this year it's crucial to be winning and staying in touch with that 8, because so many teams are staying in touch with it. If you fall off the pack, gee whiz, you're going to find it tough to regather right now, because every other team is also just winning alongside. The Sharkies come into this game as $1.41 favourites. The Cowboys are $2.93 underdogs. Obviously the Sharkies, they come into this game and look, they've been pretty good. But the game against the Bulldogs on the weekend where they won 13+, was a bit 50-50. Defensively, they still gave up 20 points to a team in the Bulldogs that have a lot of injuries, forwards-wise, and even into the backs now with Karaz and Adokar not there. The Dogs, they were monumental as a team considering the situation that they're currently in. And the Sharks, they could have blown that game out 50, 60 points, but just didn't kick on with it. They never kicked on with it. And the Bulldogs, they lingered around. They hung around and gave themselves a shot, but obviously the Sharkies did win in the end, which is what you would expect from them. So, yeah, I'm really excited about the Sharks' attack, but their defense is just not it so far this season. They've really been struggling defensively. So they need to sort that out, especially considering they've got Craig Fitzgibbon as their coach, who was a real focal point for defense of the Roosters, and it just really hasn't translated here this year so far. But obviously, we are still relatively early in the season, but are we past the quarter-way? 8, 16, 24, 32? We're past the quarter-way point, but not too far past it. So it's getting worrying for the Sharks as a genuine contender, but there's still plenty of time to weed out the cracks, because they will absolutely be there in the finals come September. Cowboys, on the other hand, I think we all know the Cowboys' problems. They are right now struggling to bounce themselves back from last year. They obviously had a really positive season, man. Really positive season, and surprised everyone. Everyone had them for the wooden spoon. They decided to go and get into the top 4 and get to the preliminary final, and that was incredible. People expect them to do it again, and they haven't so far. They've still got a decent team list there, but the Cowboys are really worrying overall. Really worrying, because they came against the Knights. Yes, they won. I believe that's a 4-pass from Val Holmes, so I do believe the Knights should have won that game. But in the same sense, neither of those teams were good at all. They both made a lot of mistakes. Good on the 2 points that you got, Cowboys. You'd be happy with the 2 points. But it wasn't a fantastic performance by any means. And it was a struggle against a Knights team that probably played their worst game all season as well. But again, you got the 2 points. You will take it. Interesting game here, especially considering that the Sharks and Cowboys, they played in last year's finals, and the Cowboys did obviously beat them at Shark Park, which then obviously preceded the Sharks to get knocked out in straight sets. But very different kind of outlines right now and outlay ahead of this game. Moving to the Sharkies, Connor Tracy, Jaden Burrell, Jesse Colquhoun, and Mawene Hiroti come in. No outs here. There's actually no outs for both teams here. Willem Kennedy, who's been the most underrated player this season. He's a fullback with Sione Katoa and Ronaldo Molotalo on the wings. Jesse Ramian and Sia Sifatalakai in the centres. Got Matt Moll in the 6, Nico Hines in the 7 as the captain. That is a just straightforward, 100% healthy backline there for the Sharkies. No excuses. Forwards-wise, you've got Oren Kafusi, Blake Brayley, Braden Hamlin-Uele. Oren Kafusi and Braden Hamlin-Uele as front rowers. Blake Brayley's number 9. Britt Nakora and Teague Wilton back row. And then Cameron McInnes as the 13. So they're only realistically missing... they're kind of missing... They've got, obviously, Finucane out and Toby Rudolph. But besides that, it's still a decent enough forward pack. It doesn't have that... It doesn't have that Finucane touch, but in the same sense, still a very decent four-pack there. Interchange-wise, Wade Graham, Jack Williams, Royce Hunt, and Thomas Hazelton, with Braden Trindle, Connor Tracy, Jesse Colquhoun, Mawene Hiroti, and Jaden Burrell as the reserves there. No excuses for the Sharkies for me. Not at all, especially at Shark Park. Moving to the Cowboys now, Ben Hampton, Brendan Elliott, Kulkefu Funafuaki, and Tani Alessandro come in, with no one being the outs. Scott Drinkwater as the fullback, with Kyle Felt, Murray Talangi wings, Valentine Holmes and Peter Hiku into the centres, Tom Din, 5'8", Chad Townsend, captain as the halfback. No excuses there for the Cowboys. Again, that did the job last year, hasn't been doing the job this year, but that is a full-strength Cowboys backline there. Forwards-wise, Sean McLean and Cohen Hess front row, Reece Robson's number 9, Jack Kasevsky and Jeremiah Nanai the back row, Ruben Cotter is the 13. Obviously, Tamalolo would normally be there. You could say there's an excuse there, but in the same sense, it's strong enough to be able to win games based off what we saw. It's really worrying signs with the Cowboys. Interchange, Tom Chester, Jake Granville, Jermaine Tanoa-Brown, and Mitchell Dunn, with the reserves being Riley Price, Ben Hampton, Brendan Elliott, Tani Alessandro and Kulikefu Funafuaki. In regards to my tips here, I'm going to take the Sharkies here at Shark Park. I think they're going to be the better team. I think that they just simply... will get this win and put themselves, where would they go? They could arguably be in second if results go their way this week. The Sharks at home should be too strong. They've got a pretty much full-strength team, just minus Toby Rudolph and Finucane, but overall, I don't think that that's going to change the outcome of a game with this. The Cowboys, I don't think I could possibly tip them with the season they've had so far. They've just been so underwhelming. They've been struggling to really gain some form, and in the game they did win, I still wasn't impressed by them at all. I was actually I wouldn't have been impressed with either of those teams. Maybe the Knights, if they had won despite looking as badly and away from home, but the Cowboys just showed the same issues, and both those teams probably would have got pumped on that day by anybody else, right? So, yeah, worrying signs for the Cowboys. I'm going to take the Sharks there. I'll still take them 1-12, just because most games this year are 1-12, and also I think that the Cowboys will still maintain a challenge, but I do have the Sharks to win the game for sure, yeah. Let's have a look at what you guys say in the chat. Brian Roberts says, Sharks W, 1-12, think Cowboys will have a good crack. Yeah, I think the Cowboys will give it a good crack for sure. I think they will give it a good crack 100%. But with that being said, I do still believe that the Sharks are going to be too good here. Zeno Short says Sharks 1-12. Cowboys will put up a fight, but not good enough yet. Alistair Gray says Sharks 1-12. Giuseppe Ali says the Cows can fix their defense. If their attack is okay, they'll win. Is their attack okay? I think, okay, I'll say, yeah, I'll agree with you on okay. I think the attack has been okay. You're right. Sorry, when you say that, sometimes people are like, oh, it's been still pretty good. It's like, it really hasn't been. But look, it's not like they can't score tries. It's not like they can't, but I wouldn't put them up there with the best attacking teams in the comp right now. There's a reason why they're currently in 15th and, so super close to, they're only 2 wins above the Tigers there. Only 2 wins above the Tigers. Go watch something else, getting around it. Brighton says, straight, okay. Mason Miller says, Molotalo better score a hat-trick after last week's disaster. Oh, I don't think that he needs to be absolutely slaughtered as much as he is, considering that they still scored up 30 points. But in the same sense, that was a pretty boneheaded move. I called that before commentary picked up on it, or anyone picked up on it. I was like, I'm pretty certain he goes out there, and he did, yeah. And he did. Jai says, Luciano Lewis still playing with the Cowboys. I think he's got, legal issues, doesn't he? I'm not too sure. I can't really speak on it. I don't want to speak on legal issues and whatnot, if that's the case. But I'm pretty certain he has, some legality issues, if I'm not mistaken. Jack Devon says, both teams are also playing for the inaugural Paul Graham medal. Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, there you go. Well, maybe the Cowboys will be up for it a little bit more, but it's like, we always utilise this, and not all the time, not a lot of the time, do you see a team will 100% get up for it. Like, the Cowboys should, but in the same sense, so should the Sharkies, and I just think that player by player, the Sharks do have a better team for me. Player by player, I do think they have a better team. But all right, let's move on to the next game here. The next game, which will be on Friday night. That was on Thursday, obviously. This will be the Friday night game at 6 p.m, the early game, which is the Broncos taking on the Newcastle Knights here. Obviously, guys, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you are new around here. But the Eels are in 13th position, whilst the Knights are in 12th. Now, this is an actual Eels home game. People got confused last week when they had a home game, but it was in Darwin. This is at CommBank Stadium in Sydney. The Eels are $1.49 favourites, with the Knights being $2.63. Eels coming to this game after that loss to the Broncos. I think that they were dreadful in that first half, but in the same sense, a lot of things, just the momentum and the bounce of the ball just went in the way of the Broncos. It was just their game. It was just their game, and the Eels had a chance late, but couldn't get the job done in the end. Came back. Overall, it just wasn't a great game for the Eels and really left a sour taste in most people's mouths watching them, to be completely honest with you, especially considering that they've been good, but not great this season. Like, they've lost a lot of games and they are down in 13th position, but they still have been losing games by small amounts rather than large amounts. So, you had some confidence in them. I tipped them. I thought they'd get up 1-12. I think if Payne Haas goes there, you probably would have seen it, but in the same sense, if Hopgood gets binned, Payne Haas should have been binned, and Ezra Mann obviously was a bin there. But you can't excuse that performance from the Eels for the most part of that game, and the Broncos deserve to win the game. Knights, on the other hand, obviously they've been a bit of a surprise this year. I know they're in 12th, but again, blood is really close. The Knights, they lost that game to the Cowboys. I still am confused about a couple of the play calls that they made, especially with Phoenix Crossland giving it to a forward to run it up through the middle, when in the last play of the game, they go left or right, but the Cowboys have all congested into the center of the field. Why go back into the centre and run straight back into the line there on the last play of the game? You go left or right, you probably score there. But that's just, unfortunately, what happens when they don't have their main hooker in Jaden Brayley. And yeah, there's definitely issues around the Knights. Very similar team to what we expected this year, but have been better as well. Have given it a good go in a couple of games, especially that Panthers game. Also think that forward pass from Val Holmes was pretty poor there for the referees. But overall, you couldn't argue that they deserved to win that game. I don't think anyone really deserved to win that game, realistically. They both were at a very similar level, and, the Cowboys won, so congratulations to them. Moving over to the team list now. For the Eels, Dejan Arce, Hayes Dunster, Isaac Lume, Jack Murchie, Makahesi Makotoa, and Ofahiki Ogden come in, with Bailey Simonson and Reem Campbell-Gillard going out. Huge loss there in Campbell-Gillard, who's been one of their strongest this season. Fullback, Clint Gutherson as the captain, with Micah Sivo and Hayes Dunster on the wings, Will Penasini and Sean Russell into the centres. Dylan Brown's the 5'8", Mitchell Moses the halfback. No excuses there, Parramatta fans. You cannot use excuses there with that back line. Will McGrigg and Junior Polo are the front rowers, and Josh Hodgson as the hooker. Sean Lane, Ryan Maddow as the back row. Good to see they finally put Ryan Maddow into the position that he actually plays, and they got Jermaine Hopgood who goes back into that lock position. Don't know what this is with Brad Arthur changing it. Just leave it like this, man. This is what it's meant to be. Like, Hopgood is a lock, and Maddow is not a lock. He is a back rower. So I like that he's made that decision to put him back there. Interchange, Bryce Cartwright, Brendan Hands, Matt Dury, and Makahesi Makotoa. And then we go to the reserves, which is Jake Arthur, Jack Murchie, Ofahiki Ogden, Dejan Arce, and Isaac Lume. So yeah, no excuse for the Eels, especially at home there. Solid enough team, and this is obviously this team is not as deadly as the Broncos. But they do have a good amount of attack in them too, the Knights. They do also still have a good amount of attack, just didn't work out against the Cowboys. Moving to their team, Adam Clune, Dylan Lucas, Hummel Hunt, and Jack Johns come in with no one being out. Fullback, Lachlan Miller, with Dominic Young and Greg Marty on the wings, Dane Gagai and Bradman Best into the centres. Kalen Ponga, the captain, he's the 5'8", with Jackson Hastings as the halfback, so he's actually come straight into the team this week rather than being on the bench there. Hopefully, that's a full-strength backline there for the Knights, and hopefully Lachlan Miller doesn't drop the ball as much as he did in that game. Need to see Callum Ponga really get back to his best in that 5'8" position, even though I still believe that he should be the fullback. But then again, what happens with Lachlan Miller? Forwards wide, Daniel Saifidi and Leo Thompson front row. Phoenix Crossland is the number 9. Tyson Frizzell, Lachlan Fitzgibbon into the back row. And then you have Kurt Mann as the lock. Interchange, Tyson Gamble, Jacob Saifidi, Matt Croker and Jack Hetherington, with the reserves being Simi Sasungi, Heimel Hunt, Jack Johns, Dylan Lucas and Adam Clune there. So, yeah, what do I go? I'm going to go the Eels. I'm going to say the Eels here at home. I'm actually going to say 13 plus as well. I do think the Eels are due a big win. I think that if they don't win this, man, like, I'm going to struggle to tip them going into the future, eh? If they don't win this, like, the Knights are not as bad as we expected going into the season. the Knights have got a bit of something about them, but I also just feel like if they translate that form they had in that game against the Cowboys to this game, the Eels will romp them. I think they've got enough attack in them. I think the Eels can put it past them. Back at home at CommBank, I get a vibe that the Eels are going to be able to really go through this one and play some really decent footy, some pretty decent footy, and get a win. And I think they're going to be a lot of the beating the smaller teams quite easily this year, the Eels. And it's harsh to say the Knights are the smaller team right now, because obviously the Knights are actually technically above them, right? They are by one spot, right? So, yeah, it's harsh, I guess, against the Knights, but you do still have those pre-season notions that you believe this team can still fall apart into that, and you still also know the Eels made the grand final last year with a very, very similar team to what they have right now, if not pretty much the same team minus Reid Marnie and Isaiah Papali'i, right? So they're pretty much what they went in with. So it shows they should have the ability. But again, it comes down to that hooker department. Josh Hodgson's just not playing well at the moment. That's the biggest issue that I find. And it's a bit of a struggle there for the Eels. But the fact of the matter is, I think they'll be too good here. I think they'll go 13 plus, and I think they'll put a bit of a score on. Let's go have a look at the chat. Jai says, that's wild. He was looking good for the Cowboys last year. Get my email says, Knights 15, Eels 14. Wow, that's a close game. My wife's boyfriend says, you're coming to Brisbane for Magic Round. I'm at every game. I'm at every game for the Titans, man. I'll be there on Sunday. For those 3 games. I'll stream the Friday and the Saturday. But on the Sunday, I will be there for all 3 games, yeah. Because the Titans play the Eels for the last game next week. Chris saying, whenever I take the Eels, they lose. Whenever I don't. Yeah, whenever I don't, they win. Yeah, no, exactly right. You said whenever I take the Eels, they lose. Whenever I don't, they lose. You just said the Eels lose. Well, fair enough this season. I don't think they have many wins in their name. That's why they're down there in their positioning. But yeah, the Eels are a very tough team to predict. They always have been. Yeah, there's a reason why they're 38 years and they haven't won anything, right? They are a very hard team to predict. Very hard. EA said, I can see the Knights losing by 2. Zeno Short says 13 plus, Eels on the lower side of 13 plus. Yeah, I don't think it's like a massive score, but I think that it could be like a 14-16 kind of pointer here for the Eels. If this was in Newcastle, I'd probably still go the Eels, but I'd say probably by about 8, 6. Yeah. Christian cares the last couple of weeks, the Eels have been disappointing. Feel like the Knights have a very good chance for an upset. Okay, well, fair enough. You know, I don't think the Knights are a terrible team. I just think that if they play like they did against the Cowboys, then I thought that was a terrible team against the Cowboys, but I don't think the Knights have been terrible this season by any means. Boogeyman says Jack White and Fisher with South. Yep, we found that out. Brighton Robertson says Para probably more desperate though. I don't know. Pretty tough to pick. Yeah, Para would definitely be more. I guess due to the embarrassment of being in the grand final last year and struggling heavily this year, I guess yes, Parramatta would be more desperate, and with the home factor, it really will come into play. But the Knights are definitely desperate too. Like any game you lose right now is significantly impactful to your position on the table. Like you could be in 6th position right now and finish off the week in like 11th, right? So every single game here is impactful, especially down here at this bottom end of the table with the 14th and 13th. I think that was what it was, wasn't it? Or 13th, 12th. 13th and 12th. Especially down here at this bottom end of the table, they're already struggling as it is points differential wise. And then if they were to lose this game again, 1, it's against a team that is in the exact same position as them, and 2, they're probably going to go down to, they're going to stick in the bottom 4. They'll be in the bottom 4, so every game is very impactful, especially these games down here at the moment, because the other teams obviously have a little bit of a buffer up top, but those teams below can easily catch them as well, as I said. Chris saying, whenever the Eels they lose, whenever they don't, they win. Oh, there you go. That makes sense. Cowboys fans, Hodgson's still 9. I know, but in the same sense, they're paying him a good contract. They're paying him some good money, so I guess that's probably the reason why. And I don't think Brendan Hands was that great against the Broncos either, to be honest with you. I think that he's probably the option I would personally go with, but I don't think that he was fantastic against the Broncos either. BP says, Buller Blaze, yeah, we were shit last week. I don't have too much hope this week either, especially with the RCG out. Yeah, RCG out is really huge and impactful to that front row. Wirra McGregor is definitely fine, though. I don't have a problem too much with Wirra McGregor, but he is not Regan Campbell-Gillard. Junior Bolo has been a shell of himself this year for me. I don't think he's been anywhere near as good as what we know he can be. So maybe he just needs to stand up now. He does, not maybe. He needs to stand up now to lead this team forward. With the absence of Regan Campbell-Gillard. Christian Kez, my eyes are hurting watching Josh Hodgson play this year. He's well past his prime. He just is. He hasn't come back from his injury as well. Like, I'm sure he's a great bloke and whatnot, but if you watch the games of the Eels, you know that he's just not playing up to the standard that the Eels need. Just not playing to the standards the Eels need. So, yeah, I personally go Hands, but he's on a decently sized contract. EA says Eels 1-12 for me. Brighton says it feels more like a 190 Eels 220 Knights sort of game. Maybe 180 240 kind of deal. 170 240. 170 230. Something like that. It's similar to you, Brighton, but I'd still say Eels should be more favourites than that. But it's really, I know that the betting agencies will be struggling to find the prices this year for me. BP's para front row sus though. Greg doesn't play big minutes and Paulo hasn't played well all year. And Hodgson, I agree, but I still think this Eels team is due a big win at some point in the near future. Hayes says, hands 9, miss rain 14. Tilchunga says, the Eels should win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Knights did. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. I'm going to back in a big Eels win here, but I would not be surprised. BP says, plus if they Russell Dunster on one side, they've leaked a lot of points down their side. Well, Eels love a good points given up. They love giving up points. I think they've been giving up pretty much every game 20 points besides that Melbourne Storm game. It's a certain year where they lost. I'm pretty certain they've been giving up a pretty hefty amount of points, so... and I guess the Panthers, right? I guess the Panthers as well. But the Eels don't mind giving up some points. Their defense isn't exactly the greatest. It's not exactly the greatest there. So I'm going to go Eels 13 plus. I can definitely see the Knights getting up here. I can obviously see an Eels 1-12, but I just feel like they're due. They're just due personally. But all right, let's move off that game and let's get into the big game. The big game on Friday night, 8 p.m. The Brisbane Broncos taking on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Obviously, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. I can't wait to stream this game live. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great game to watch live. Broncos obviously in first. The Rabbitohs are in fourth position. The Broncos are not favourites for this game. They're $1.99, even though they're at Suncorp Stadium. While the Rabbitohs are $1.82 here. Obviously, the Broncos come into this game after that win against the Eels, where the ball just continuously bounced their way. The momentum is with them. The good vibes are with them, and that's what happens. When you got good vibes and momentum, it just continues, man. It just finds a way. The ball finds a way into your hands, as you saw Tony Stad. That ball bouncing up perfectly at the dead ball line. You can't plan that. It right at the dead ball line bounces up. It looked like it was going well too far. Directly up, Tony Staggs knocks it back, and it just happens when you're a team in a good mood and a good vibe and just moving along, right? The Broncos are having happy times right now. Still think that there is some issues here because the Broncos obviously played a lot of easier teams in comparison, and this is the test for me. The Rabbitohs are the test for me because the Broncos have not played a great deal of top tier teams. They've played teams like the Tigers, the Dragons, the Raiders, the Dolphins. You can throw in the Titans if you damn well please. All these teams and Cowboys, all these teams that just aren't simply that great at the moment or haven't hit their stride. And the Broncos have done through them nicely, which is what you would expect from them. But this is the test for me against a really good Rabbitohs team that also has their issues. But this is who I've got currently as my premiership favourite currently. I've got them there. So moving to the Rabbitohs now. The Rabbitohs, obviously, they come into this game after beating the Panthers by scoring 2 tries late, obviously. People in my chat 7.5 minutes ago saying, game over, Panthers have won this game. And so settle down a little bit here, wait a little bit. I think that there's still plenty of time to go here. You can't call some fat lay sings. And the fat lay definitely didn't sing at 7.5 minutes ago. The Rabbitohs won that game. It was really, really hearty. Trell Mitt, obviously, in some great form right now. Some really good form for the club. And you'd love to see it. You do. You'd love to see it. Obviously, Cody Walker, that bought Isaiah Tass. Obviously, they've made the signing of Jack Whiten now, which is huge for them. We'll see how that affects their cap going forward. But that's relevant. That's not until 2024. But it is good vibes on the Rabbitohs right now. They believe they're a good team. They believe they're right, well and truly in it. However, the Rabbitohs are still very ill-disciplined in a lot of areas and do give up penalties. They do, lay on the ruck too long. They do have a bit of fitness issues, in my opinion, but they also are really kind of picking and choosing their times well, which is what I've really liked in regards to how the Rabbitohs have still been motoring through despite having a few issues. They're having very similar issues to Manly, but they're just powering through them better. And they're actually just getting through their motions a lot better than what Manly do. And that's why the Rabbitohs are in 4th position right now, with obviously a chance to go second if Manly are to lose this week to the Titans. So Rabbitohs, I'm liking them this season. Still things to tinker out, but this will be a really good game here, and it will tell me a lot about the Broncos specifically. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Broncos here to prove that this is the genuine team that they've been promising their fans. Rabbitohs, big win for them, big game for them, but not as much pressure as the Broncos in my personal opinion. But then again, can drop drastically. Moving to the Broncos team list here, Brendan Piakura, Dean Mariner, Deloise Holter, Jock Madden, Jordan Pereira, Keenan Palacia, and Xavier Willison come in. Unfortunately, Corey Oates does go out. Ezra Mam goes out and Payne Haas goes out. 3 huge outs there for the Broncos, and just sad to see with Corey Oates and his injuries this year, and Ezra Mam and Payne Haas suspended obviously for the hip drops, which Payne Haas wasn't even given a penalty in game, but apparently he's suspended for 1 or 2 games. I think it's 1 game, Ezra Mam 1 game as well. Really disappointing there for the Broncos, but in the same sense, it just doesn't make sense from the NRL to suspend Payne Haas, but not give a penalty or a sin bin in the game. But then, which made Hopgood, who got sin bin in the game, he doesn't get he doesn't get anything. He got like a small fine or something like that. So really confusing with the NRL, but it is what it is. Reece Walsh, he's the fullback with Jesse Arthurs and Selwyn Cobb on the wings. Tony Staggs, Toby Farm with the other centres. You got Jock Madness at 5'8". Ooh, yikes. And Adam Reynolds is the captain in the halfback. Thomas Flagler comes in for Payne Haas with Thomas Flagler and Keenan Palacia, who comes in for Payne Haas. The front row, Billy Walters is the number 9. Kurt Catewell and Jordan Ricky back row. Patrick Harrigan is the lock. Interchange wides, Corey Pags, Corey Jensen, Kobe Hetherington, and Martin Tapau, with the reserves being Dean Mariner, Brendan Piakura, Xavier Willison, Deloise Holter, and Jordan Pereira. The Broncos are going to have excuses here. The Broncos will have excuses to lose this game. With no Ezra Mam, no Payne Haas, no Corey Oates there. Puts Jesse Arthurs back onto that wing. Who I still think is fine, by the way. I don't think he's exceptional, but I think Jesse Arthurs is still fine. But yeah, obviously, massive loss with Payne Haas. And Ezra Mam's been playing some really good footy as well, really fast-paced footy. He's linking up great with Reece Walsh, right? So it's going to be really hard to see them. But Keenan Palacia, obviously, he's going to the Titans next year. So, fire up, son. Fire up, son, and get the win for your team, because we'll be seeing you on the Gold Coast in 2024. Then we go to the Rabbitohs here. Ben Lovett, Blake Taaffe, Dean Hawkins, and Tavita Totola come in. Huge in there for Tavita Totola, with no one being out. That's what you like to see if you're a Rabbitohs fan. No outs, no injuries. He's the fullback. No new injuries. Trell Mitchell is the fullback with Alex Johnson and Tane Milne on the wings. Isaiah Tass, Campbell Graham is the centres there. It's going to be interesting to see how Isaiah Tass really wakes up here in this game, because obviously he's got that winning try, but with the news of Jack Whiten, he's going to need to play his ass off this season, to try and force himself to stay there, or to get pushed to the wing, or Campbell Graham to the wing, with Jack Whiten into the centres there, and push Tane Milne out, right? Otherwise, they could just get rid of Isaiah Tass and put Jack Whiten in centre. So he's going to need a big season. So look for Isaiah Tass in this game. Cody Walker is the 5'8". Lachlan Lewis is the halfback with Tavita Totola and Jai Arrow front row. Damien Cook as the hooker. Michael Cheekham, Jacob Host back row, and Cameron Murray the captain. He's the lock. Still need to see more from Cameron Murray, man, this year. It hasn't been his greatest for me. Jake Cartwright, David Mawali, Hame Sele, and Thomas Burgess of the interchange, with Daniel Saluka for feeder, Blake Taaffe, Josiah Kotopani, Ben Lovett, and Dean Hawkins reserves. Who I took this game? I think that I'm going to tip the Rabbitohs based on the fact of the outs of Payne Haas and Ezra Mam, 2 really big players, they're impactful players of this Broncos team. I think the Rabbitohs will go probably maybe 1-12. This is a huge test for the Broncos, and it would have been a huge test for them even with a full-strength team. I believe I may have lent with Brisbane at home if they had a full-strength team. May have. I don't know. I would have gone like a 1, 2, 4 point win for the Rabbitohs, or even for the Broncos there, but I just can't see past. They're not going to have that go forward in the forwards department with no Payne. I could honestly see the Rabbitohs still winning this game 13+. I'm not going to do that though. I'm going to say 1-12, but that is such an impactful loss there for this team. An absolute gigantic workhorse, that is going to be really severely missed, and the electricity and energy that Ezra Mam brings that 6th role is going to be really lost with Jock Madden for me. So I think the Rabbitohs are in form. They just beat the Panthers. Probably deserve to win that game by more, but stupid errors, man. Stupid errors like short dropouts in when it was a tied game, like really ridiculous with like 30 minutes to go or 2 points lead or whatever. Stupid things like that. Not taking the 2 early in the game and going for the try, which was just... Yeah, in games like that, you've got to be smarter. And the Rabbitohs weren't doing that in that game, but still got the win. So I think the Rabbitohs will win. I'll go 1-12. I can see well they win 13+. If the Broncos win, that's a gigantic effort with their outs, but I'll take the Rabbitohs. Coast Clubs is coming to Broncos. Colin said, I don't think the Rabbitohs have it in them for the win in this one. I disagree with the outs that the Broncos have. And I also think the Rabbitohs are also my premiership favourites right now. They're my current premiership favourites. Get my something now says Rabbitohs 18, Broncos 16, Trollmint winner. Gibbo says Rabbits proved last week they're contenders for this game. I think they proved with the team list they're contenders for this game, and the fact that they Still made the prelim last year. You know, nothing's really changed a great deal. They're still a top-tier team, man. With Trell in this form, gee whiz, I tell ya. Colin says the Broncos' defense isn't amazing. It's not as good as it was last year. The Broncos really focused on the attack, and as we've spoken about quite a bit throughout the streams and whatnot, the Broncos try to score every single play. And it's been easy against a lot of these weaker teams, like the Tigers, like the Titans with their defense. With the Dragons, the Dolphins, the Cowboys and whatnot. Obviously, they didn't really play that way against the Panthers when they played them in the first round, but that's a long time ago now. That's a long time ago. So I hope that we can see the Broncos maintain the ability to not give away stupid... Well, no, not even maintain, because they haven't. They still give away stupid shit. They do. They still make mistakes that is so unnecessary because they're thinking about scoring every single play and every single set. Sometimes sets are not meant for you just to score. They're meant for you to just grind it out. And that's the issue with the Broncos for me this year. But obviously they're top of the table for a reason. They're top of the table for a reason. Bright says these two teams are 5-5 in the last 10, and they've gone win, loss, with Broncos having the last win, which if you're going off that Pat and South win, Brighton, you're always going to find a way to say the opposition team wins because you don't want to seem cocky or arrogant. You're always going to find a way. Christian Cairns, do you think that Brisbane's defense will be able to contain Latrell if he has been on fire of late? Tana Milner's our weakness. He cannot defend to save his life. Brisbane's defense last year was great. It was really, really good until the last month. But this season, it just hasn't been it, man. It hasn't been it. So if the Rabbitohs play like they did against the Panthers, I can see them winning this game well. Well. I can see them winning this game well. Especially without that massive meter eater and just grinder that is pain in the ass that you don't necessarily see, but then you look at the stats and you're like, holy shit, this guy's at 200 meters. You know, you don't notice it sometimes. You just don't notice it sometimes. Brighton says Adam Reynolds is undefeated against South. I don't think that's worth much though. Grasping at straws, I'd be much more confident with Payne and Mam in the team. Yeah, I'd definitely be more confident than Broncos if they had their full team. Christian Cairns says Walsh versus Trell going to be a good battle. Yeah, for sure, of course. Colin says Latrell over Walsh any day. Yes, because I think that Trell, I'd be a lot more convincing him defensively. But again, this is a big game for the Broncos to prove. This is a big game for the Broncos to prove that they are a quality team. Because if they can do well here in this game without a couple of their stars, they'll be legit. Christian says, Cam Murray does a lot of his work in defense. Still think he's been one of our most consistent. Okay, he's been consistent, but he hasn't been the electric player that we've seen in previous years. But you're right, but in the same sense, he hasn't been the same player that we've seen in recent years. BP says, I'm going with the Rabbits too. Chris James says, Broncos haven't versed many top teams unlike the Bunnies. This will be the test to see if the Broncos should stay up there. That's exactly what I'm saying, Chris. That is exactly what I am saying. So, yes, a huge game here for the Broncos, especially with their players out. Let's move on now to the Canberra Raiders taking on the Red Cliff Dolphins. Gee whiz. There you go. I know what I'm going to deal with here. Obviously, guys, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you are new around here. Canberra Raiders coming to this game in 11th, but they are at home in Wagga Wagga. This is not at Canberra, it is McDonald's Park in Wagga Wagga. Dolphins coming to this game in 8th position, and are the underdogs here at $2.26, the Raiders $1.65, which is relatively interesting, but I also think the Dolphins actually should be more than that, as in out a little bit more. Raiders coming to this game off the bye, which is good for them. Obviously, they got a freebie 2 points. They moved on a couple of spots to 11th there. Obviously have been really underwhelming this season and just lost Jack White. So how do they, recover? Are they going to be able to move through it, considering that they know this has been a really tumultuous, one of the most tumultuous, signings I've seen in recent years with the loss of Jack White and the Raiders, who was a core part of this team. Plus also the fact that he was a one-club player, plus all the fact that they wanted him to get 300. Like, a lot of things went into it, and obviously has gone against them and gone to the Rabbitohs, which he's legally entitled to do. Like, he is entitled to do it. But it's gonna be rough to see how they do go with him this year, and if they do still kind of work as a team, knowing that he's kind of done this to his team. Although it's legal, it's also kind of, well, shit, bro. Yeah, that's a really dramatic thing to do during the season, especially when you guys are already struggling, but I also understand his viewpoint. The Dolphins, obviously, come into this game in 8th position. They came back against the Titans from 26-0 down at Suncorp Stadium. I genuinely do not believe that was a Dolphins comeback. I believe that was, again, another Titans choke away that they've done for many years now. It's 6 times in the last 3 years. If it was an irregularity, I'd say the Dolphins, too good, too strong, came home and won the game fair and square. They did win the game fair and square, but I don't think at the core of it that it was the Dolphins. I think at the core of it, it is the Titans, which is obviously my team. And again, if it was an irregularity and that was one-time thing, they'll be like, yeah, no, Dolphins just absolutely slapped the second half. But considering that it is a common occurrence with the club of the Gold Coast Titans, I do believe that the onus of that game goes to them. And it's like, congratulations for the 2 points there for the Dolphins, the free 2 points. But in the same sense, they were still down 26-0 before the Titans did something that they've done many, many a time now in recent years, which, as you guys might have seen on my Instagram, I did speak about. We'll talk about that during the Titans game in a little bit. But, the Dolphins are in 8th. They are surprising and surpassing expectations. But I do think there are very, very worrying signs for that team. Very, very worrying signs that I can get slack for. It is what it is. But there are very, very worrying signs for the Dolphins. Brad Schneider, James Schiller, Jordan Rapana, Peter Hodler, Trey Mooney, and Xavier Savage are the ins, with Harley Smith-Shields and Nick Kotrich being the out. Sebastian Chris is the fullback, with Alba Hobawade and Jordan Rapana on the wings. Jared Croker, captain centre, great to see him still playing, and Matty Tomoko on the other centre. I still notice that Xavier Savage is not back in the team yet, so he's back on as an in, but he's not into the team yet, so it's good to see Jared Croker still there. I think he's got like 5 games to play now to get 300. We're just kind of willing it and wishing for him to get there. Jack White's the 5'8", with Jamal Fogarty is the 7. Josh Papali'i and Joseph Tarpanay front row. Zach Wolford is the number 9. Hudson Young, Elliot Whitehead back row. Corey Horsburgh is the lock, with Tom Starling, Emre Gula, Pasami Saulo, Corey Huddle-Renara as the interchange, and then James Schiller, Brad Schneider, Xavier Savage, Trey Mooney, and Peter Holler as the reserves there. So Xavier Savage probably got about 1 more week, unless they decide to put him in late, but probably got 1 more week before he does get given the green light there. Raiders team is pretty much what we expect, man. It's minus Xavier Savage pre-season. This is pretty much exactly what we expect here from this Raiders team. There's actually nothing wrong with this Raiders team it's just the Raiders have been super underwhelming this year. Just have been. And I called it pre-season, but they just have been super underwhelming. But at Wagga Wagga, you'd be fancying them for sure. Ins here for the Dolphins: Anthony Milford, Edric Lee, Kenneth Bromwich, Mason Teague, and Pawasa Famal-Wasili are the ins, with JJ Collins being out. Hamid Tabuai-Fado is the fullback, with Jermaine Sarko and Robert Jennings on the wing. Robert Jennings, gee whiz. Ewan Aiken and Branko Lee are the centres. He's likely to keep his spot, to be honest with you. Ewan Aiken and Branko Lee are the centres, with Cody Nicarima as the 5'8" and Asai Katoa as the halfback. Jesse Bromwich and Kenneth Bromwich are the front rowers there. Jesse is the captain, with Jerry Marshall King as the hooker. You got Felice Kafusi and Kaneli Lemielu as the back row. Tom Gilbert as the lock. Interchange-wise, Jared Wallace, Wanker, Mark Nichols, Ray Stone, and Herman Sayesa as the interchange, with Kurt Donahoe, Pawasa Famal-Wasili, Edric Lee, Mason Teague, and Anthony Milford as the reserves. I'm taking the Raiders here. I'll take them 1-12 though. I think that it is nerve-wracking to take the Raiders here, and it's only because of the Jack Whiten scenario and the situation surrounding him. If it wasn't for that, I would say I'd be confident as in the Raiders. I'd be super confident. But I think surrounding that issue, I need to see how they're going to still come together as a team, despite that really big, really, really big loss there. I know Raiders fans are trying to downplay it. I know that obviously people are trying to make sense of it and whatnot, but it is a big loss here for the Raiders, and it obviously has hit their club pretty hard, as they've had to make a statement. Like, the Raiders have actually had to come out and make a statement regarding this, basically coming for the Rabbitohs, but also just clarifying with their fans they tried everything they could to keep him. So it is a lot more impactful than Raiders fans will try to let on to you. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if this team can still come together as a team. So I'm going to go Raiders 1-12. I do think they're the better team. I'm going to go Raiders 1-12 here. Let's go have a look at the chat. David says, hey, hello mate, how you doing? Get my something Mouses, Raiders 54, Dolphins 0. Don't know about that, bro. Don't know about that. Mason Mills says, anyone knows the last week the announcement was calling them the Gold Coast Dolphins? That's interesting. Like, obviously, the Gold Coast were originally meant to be called the Dolphins. They were originally, but then the Dolphins obviously put a lawsuit so that it couldn't happen, and that's why they're the Titans. Brighton says, does losing Jack mess with their mentality at all, which wasn't great to start the season anyway? I don't know if that affects things much. 50-50 game, really Dolphins away might hurt them. Yeah, Dolphins away might hurt them. Obviously, Rays did lose to the Dolphins early this season when they pretty much had the game won. But the Dolphins found a way to win that game in pouring down conditions in Redcliffe. Like, specifically, it was at Chaos Stadium in Redcliffe. The Raiders should want to have a bit of revenge here for sure. They should want to really focus on that revenge factor and come out with a real big spirit, especially for the people of Wagga Wagga. Wagga Wagga, they love the Raiders there, man. They love the Raiders there. But it says Raiders won't let them back in if it happens again. So Raiders, Brighton says Raiders don't have Titans attack though. Blissy very unlikely they get ahead by that much. That is correct. The Raiders do not have the attack, but in the same sense, they do have some players at the back that they can utilise. Like the Rays, it's not like they have a bad backline at all. They've got a solid backline. But yeah, I wouldn't say they're as electric as the Titans when the Titans are on in regards to attack. Better defensively, for sure. But I wouldn't say that it's a massive detractor in regards to the Rays attack. And if the Dolphins defend like they did, I'm telling you, the Rays can put a score on them. They won't choke it away. But it says Titans have a top 5 attack, in my opinion. Absolutely. Joseph says Titans the best first half team. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, mate. We'll talk about the Titans in a second. But it says it could also depend if White is still putting in 100%. I think sure, yeah, it's a good call, but I think surely you don't want to lose that momentum throughout your career, man. Like, I know that yes, I don't think that he puts in any less effort. Harry says, Raiders didn't start the season well, but they've turned their season around by winning the last 2 matches. Nah, I disagree with you, man. You go and have a look at their last 2 matches. That game against the Dragons, they weren't great, but they won. And arguably actually won because Zach Lomax couldn't hit a barn door, mate. That guy could not kick for the life of him. I broke that guy. I dead set broke that guy. But, the Dragons game, yeah, and then obviously got that bye. Who was their other game against? Who was the game before that the Rays played? It obviously wasn't very memorable, to be fair. Oh, my God, you always just click on the advertisement. The Raiders-Dragons game, very impressive game. And then the Raiders, they beat... Oh, that's right, they beat the Broncos. That was a good win. That was a very good win. But in the same sense, they really got up for that one. Do they get up for this one? I'm not sure, personally. I'm not sure if they can get... They can't get up to that. That's playing up to your opponent on a big night out, right? I don't personally see... that as turning the season around. I thought that was a big one-off game, and then the next week they kind of showed who they were a lot more, but they did win. So I'm taking the Raiders here. I'm tipping the Raiders for sure. But I'm not 100% confident. And that's not because of the Dolphins. That's because of the Raiders. Alrighty, let's move on to the next game here. Obviously, my Gold Coast Titans. Obviously, guys, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. This is the 5:30 game on Saturday. Manly Seagulls taking on the Gold Coast Titans. Manly are in 2nd, which is surprising, with the Gold Coast Titans being in 10th, which is, I guess, where a lot of people were thinking they were going to be around. Manly coming to this game is $1.56. Titans at $2.45. They are giving the Titans a slight little shout there for sure. This is a hard game to predict. And obviously, guys, I will say this to you again, as I say every single week. You guys know that I'm going to back my boys in here. Listen to what I have to say about the game. Don't necessarily just say, okay, bang, I'm taking the Titans because of it. Listen to what I have to say, make your own decisions, but implement it into your own perspective if you believe and agree with what I'm saying in regards to the performance of the Titans and whatnot. Because don't just, go willingly straight up on me. Utilize it in your perspective because I'm going to give you a spiel, obviously, in support of my team. But Manly, obviously, coming to this game. Actually, who did they play? Who did Manly play over the weekend? Oh, it was the Tigers. Oh, yeah, and they didn't look great. Yeah, they didn't look great against the Tigers. I clicked back and I didn't even need it. I recognised it pretty quickly. Didn't look great at all there. Tigers actually probably could make an argument for the fact that they feel that they should have won that game, but it's the Tigers. They haven't won a game all season so far. Manly are so ill-disciplined, man. They still are. They're still the same team that I've been telling you guys about all season long. I have no idea how they're in 2nd position. But again, it actually comes down to the fact, like, you look at the ladder. I don't know if you guys can really see this because of the way I've cropped it, but you look at the ladder, their points differential is 12. Their points differential is 12. That is 7th best in the league. That is the 6th best in the league. Yes, it is. The Eels are on 3, even though they're down 13. But they're down there in 6th. The Broncos have better points differential by about 80, 90 points. The Panthers have about 70, 80 points differential better than them. Rabbitohs about 40. Sharks 30-odd. And yet the Eagles are above them. And the reason is, and this is why I said, drawing that game for Manly and the Knights was actually a blessing in disguise because they don't have to worry about points differential anymore. They don't have to worry about it anymore. Look, obviously, Manly, it really doesn't matter in regards to how much they win by. No game is a 13 plus or a 1 12 one for them unless they're having to come against the Knights for that 8th position. It's a hard read with Manly. It's a real hard read with Manly. If they had won that game against the Knights, then they would obviously be 2 points in 2nd. If they had lost that game against the Knights, they'd be in 7th right now, or 6th right now, right? I think 6th, yeah. So, yeah, Manly are a confusing team right now, but back at Brookie, be interesting. Obviously, I will be at this game. The Gold Coast Titans, they come into this game after obviously choking away that 26-0 lead, a thing that has happened for the Titans for many years now, actually happened against this club about 3 years ago at Seabusson Stadium, where the Titans were leading like 24-10 or 24-8 at halftime and lost like 56-32. Something ridiculous. Tom to work. It was 2021. in his season. Tom Dvojevic killed that second half. Titans, obviously, the morale right now would be just shot. I haven't been in training. I can't tell you how it's feeling, but I can tell you how I'm feeling. And it definitely was a rough 3 days. And if you look at my Instagram, I gave you a real good update about my thoughts and feelings about where this club is at and what's going on with the club right now. The Titans have a really electric attack, man. They really do. A really electric attack. And obviously, it's not about the individual result that is so dark there. It's about a lot of other factors. But the Titans have an electric attack that can absolutely win them this game. AJ Brimson loves playing against Manly Brookvale. That's his favourite part to play at, basically. Statistically, he's really good when he plays Manly Brookvale. Titans don't have a horrible record against Manly either. And they're going to really need to have a bounce-back game here. I worry for Justin, man. I do. I worry for Justin Holbrook as the coach. If they lose this game big, it'll be a struggle. It'll be a real big struggle for him to stick in the job. It will be. And I believe in Justin, man. I've told you guys this for a long time now. I love Justin. He's a great bloke. But I tell you what, if they lose this game by a big margin or a similar thing that happened on the weekend, I can't see Justin lasting too much longer. So I think the Titans need to win this game. This is a must-win game for the Titans. Like, it is a literal must-win. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. They need to bounce back from that bullshit we saw in that second half. Now, moving on to the Manly team, Ben Condon, Christian Tuipulotu, Ko Weeks, Carl Lawton, and Kelma Tuolangi and Morgan Boyle come in with Brad Parker and Josh Schuster out again. Josh Schuster has had a horror injury season, and yeah, wow. It's really unlucky for him. Fullback-wise, Tom Dvojevic, maybe. He might play, he might not. I think he is playing, but it is a 50-50, a little bit of an injury cloud there, as per usual. Jason Saab and Christian Tuipulotu are the wingers, with Ruben Garrick and Morgan Harper into the centres. You've got Cooper Johnson, the 5'8", Daly Cherry Evans is the captain and the halfback. I think Cooper Johnson, the 5'8", probably actually played better. They've played fine with him there. Nothing special, obviously, but I think that's probably a bit better than Josh Schuster right now. I don't think Schuster's really kind of cracked it on, what people would like. Maybe he goes back into the back row. I don't know, but he's been very injury-ridden this season. Taniela Paseka, and Jake Trbojevic, the front rowers. Lachlan Croker is the number 9, with Hamoli Okawatu and Kelma Tuolangi back row. Josh, Instagram blogger, Aloye is the lock. Carl Lawton, Ethan Bullimore, Sean Kepi, and Tofofo Sipley are the interchange, with Sharon Woods, Ko Weeks, Samwata Fainu, Morgan Boyle, and Ben Condon as the replacement. So, Manly, their team is pretty much straightforward, besides the fact that Tom Trbojevic is under an injury cloud. Brad Parker obviously out, so Morgan Harper comes in there. I don't think that's as bad as other people do say, but yeah, they have lost 2 players there, which is unfortunate for them. Titans, on the other hand, obviously Aaron Should comes back in with Joe Vuna, Sammy McIntyre, and Tom Weaver. No outs here. Fullback AJ Brimdog, Millionaire Brimson, with the wingers being Lofiana Khan-Pereira and Philip Sami on the wings. Brian Kelly, Jojo Feeder are the centres. With Kieran Foran as a 5'8", Tanner Boyd as the halfback. I have been calling for Jojo to play centre and Sammy to be the wing, or obviously, but no, that's what I've been calling. Yeah, Jojo for Feeder's centre, Philip Sammy on the wing there. Kieran Foran 5'8", Tanner Boyd 7, with Mike Fodawaker and Tina Asul Malawi as the captain. Their front rowers, Chris Randall number 9, with David Feeder, who's been incredible this season, and Joe Stimson as the back rowers. Isaac Liu is the lock, with Jaden Campbell, Aaron Clark, Cleese Haas, which is great to see, and Joe Vuna as the interchange. I hope Cleese gets cracked this week, because he's been on that bench for the last couple of weeks, and he keeps dropping off late. Cruz Leeming, Aaron Shoop, Tom Weaver, Thomas McHale, and Sammy McIntyre are the reserves. But again, like I told you guys last week, Shoop was injured last week. That's probably why he's not in there right now. And also, I don't necessarily think BK's done enough to get dropped, even though he's made a few mistakes recently. Now, I'm gonna go with the Titans here. Of course I am. I'm going to back my team in, right? I genuinely believe that it's a must-win. It is a literal must-win here with the Gold Coast Titans. I haven't seen a more must-win in a long time. It's not a must-win in regards to ladder positioning. It's not. It's got nothing to do with ladder positioning. It's actually got nothing to do with just this individual game against Manly. It's to do with the Titans and being able to fight against the resiliency of how much that has impacted the club's morale. It really has impacted deeply within the soul of the Gold Coast Titans. I can tell you that because I'm within it, right? I know how much this has impacted everybody in the club, because it's a rehash nightmare. It's a PTSD nightmare that people, fans, and organisational players, staff, everything have gone through with this club, right? So this is a must-win. So I'm going to say 1-12, man. And yeah, I think the Titans will have a good game, and I back them in. So let's go. Actually, I forgot to do this. I forgot to switch this one so you can see this on this side. Move that down here, then we'll go have a look at what you guys are saying in the chat. Is that there? Yeah, we'll move it like that. All right, and we'll click on Titans. Bang. All right. Colin says if Dolphins can't play like the half one against the Titans, we're done. Yeah. But I think that represented a lot of what that club is. Mason Miller says healthy Turbo Titans get slapped. Whoever Turbo might not even play, they have a chance. I disagree with you completely. Turbo's not been great this season at any stage. There's not been really a great game. Maybe the Bulldogs game, but overall, Turbo is not 2021 Turbo. It's just not the case. Like, that's just a bullshit comment there. To assume that the Titans get slapped because there's a healthy Turbo is just ridiculous. Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. Last year Turbo was playing, and we lost that game by like 6 points. So settle down. Colin says I love slap you, sir, for the insult. Fair enough. Sorry, Blizz is saying that you're just a Broncos fan disguise. Well, you are. Brighton says both these teams can score and score fast. This looks like a 28-24 kind of job, or even a 34-28. Yep. Sean Murray says Titans 1-12. What time is the bye? It says the bye is Melbourne Storm this week, mate. Melbourne Storm. Blitz says Titans 13 plus. Love to see it, bro. I would love to see it. Obviously, it's very, very hard at the moment, right? So I would love to back in a 13 plus, but obviously I've got to tell you my genuine thoughts. And I think that's possible, but in the same sense, that would be such a positive thing for this club to bounce back from a loss like that with a 13 pluser. Brighton says, there it is, back in. Love to see it. Not back in just yet. And Giants and Titans bounce back for sure. Bree Baker says, I think the Titans are a really good chance of beating Manly. Love your tipping videos up the wires. Appreciate you, Bree. Yeah, get around the wires. Obviously, unlucky loss last night, but they're a decent team this year. Just unlucky with the injuries last night. But I appreciate that, Bree. Yeah, Titans, hopefully they're a good chance of beating Manly. As you guys can see, this week has been it's taken a lot of a toll out of me, right? So, it is difficult talking about the team. But in the same sense, we keep moving. I'll be in Manly on Saturday. Tyrok says AJ is clear of Turbo. Kelly says Turbo's injured. Yeah, there's an injury cloud. There is an injury cloud over Turbo. We'll put it that way. But we don't know the extent of it realistically. Get Wise and Mouse 32, Titans 32, Manly 30. Again, Titans love scoring points at Manly. It was a great game last season. It was also a great game in 2021. Just need the Titans to get off and just be more consistent, obviously, across the full 80, right? It's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's not rocket science. It feels like it's rocket science right now, a part of the club, but it's not rocket science. Miles says Manly looked very poor against the Tigers last week. Exactly right, Miles. Exactly right. They are definitely doable. They're not as good as they're not a second place team. They really aren't. They just simply aren't for me. They're lucky that they got that draw, because if they lost that game, they'd be in sixth. And I still think that's pretty high for where they've actually performed this season. I think that was a great win against the Storm in wet, grinding conditions, but overall, they're a very, very ill-disciplined team. So, removing my Titan support, this Manly team this year, I've said this same recurring thing every single round. This has nothing to do with the fact that they're taking on my team. This is what I've been saying literally every single round, that this team grinds my gears because they continuously put themselves in the back foot by giving away, knock-ons and penalties and just six agains. It's ridiculous how much they do it. It's ridiculous. And if they give it to the Titans, as long as the Titans don't fade away like they have been, and the new fade is the competition, Titans could really roll through this. They really could. So Ratman says Titans 30-8, smack them Eagles up. Hope so, bro. Hope so. Display name says, as a Titans fan, we need to defend the second half a bit more. Thanks, mate. You reckon? Fatima says 28-38 Titans. And we'll go one more comment, then we'll move on to the next game. And Tyrock says, a Brimdog millionaire for the Dally M. You get around him. Get around a Brimdog millionaire. I know how I was with him after the game. That was, it's very tough to see. The boys as dejected they were, Jojo, Tanner, Bremo, but in the same sense, they know they've got my support and they know they've got the Titans fan support. But yeah, tough times for sure, just because of the rehashed memories. All right, let's move on to the next game now. Saturday, 7:35 p.m. It is the Panthers taking on the West Tigers. Obviously, guys, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're around here. Also, don't know why it's the Panthers, not the Penrith Panthers taking on the West Tigers. I don't know why they've removed that, but whatever. I know they said third tackle, just them. The Panthers are in third. The Tigers are in 17th. Obviously, you guys hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. But the Panthers are in third. They're $1.19 to the Tigers, who are $4.75. This is actually in Bathurst as well. So we've got a couple of rando games this week. Carrington Park, Bathurst. We've got Raiders, Wagga Wagga. I love those kind of games, man. I went to Mudgee to watch my team get pumped by Manly. There you go. About 3 years ago. I love the Mudgee, the Bathurst, the Cairns, the Darwin, the Wagga Wagga. Everywhere that is just a place that it's a small ground and a country place. It's fantastic. It really is fantastic vibes. And obviously, Panthers and West Tigers should pull a pretty big crowd there, despite the fact the Tigers are obviously winless right now. And there is a big out here for the Panthers, but in the same sense, we all know, I'm not going to beat around the bush, the Panthers should win this game. The Panthers, obviously, they come in after that loss to the Rabbitohs. They can't lose 2 games straight, and especially if that second game straight is to the Tigers as well. They just surely can't lose 2 games straight there. They had that game won, right? With 7.5 minutes to go, Rabbitohs came over the top of them. They got a little bit complacent there, I guess, or the Rabbitohs just had that extra drive, that second wind, or even arguably third wind, to push over the line down the left-hand side. Cody Walker, full pass, not full pass. I think it's flat. I think it's fine. And Panthers fans, please don't complain about referees, please. Like, that is you're the last club to be talking about referees in a negative sense. Maybe not the last club, but, you definitely get a lot more favoritism than a lot of other teams, right? Like the Wars, like the Titans, like the Tigers, like a lot of these other teams that when you're not good, you're not going well, you're not going to be getting the calls, right? It's just it's what it is. But the Panthers should win this game. They really should. There's no excuses for them at all. They could rest half their team like they did. The Panthers actually beat the Tigers last year, I think, during Origin, when the Panthers had like 9 players out. It still beat the Tigers with a New South Wales Cup team. It was crazy. Tigers obviously coming into this game, 7-8. They nearly beat Manly. They did well. Every game for the Tigers this year, besides the game against the Broncos, have actually been in it. They've actually been in the game. It's not like they're not in the games. They closely have been losing, like by less than 12 points kind of deal. You go back and have a look at that Doggies game and whatnot, and like they only lost that game by like 4 points. They lost to the Titans by 12, which was a convincing 12, but in the same sense, it's not as bad as people make out in regards to the actual performances, but it's the individual mistakes in the critical times that make the performance ultimately as mean as they are. But the Tigers really have no right to win this game. They really don't. But the NRL's been crazy this season. Anything can happen, maybe. Anything can happen. Panthers here, Chris Smith, Liam Henry, Luke Garner, Tom Jenkins, and Tyrone Peachey come in with Isaac Tungo going out. Dylan Edwards is the fullback with Sunya Torova and Brian To'o on the wings. Tyrone Peachey in the centres with Stephen Crichton as well. Jerome Luai as a 5'8", Nathan Cleary as the halfback. Obviously, Peachey comes in there for Tungo, which is an interesting one. I haven't seen Peachey back there for a while. Mosley Ota and Matty Eisenhuth as the front rowers, and Mitch Kenny is the hooker. Scott Sorensen, Zach Hoskins back row, Isaiah Yeo is the lock. Sonny Luke, Lindsay Smith, Spencer Leniu, and Jamin Salmon are the interchange, with Luke Garner, Tom Jenkins, Chris Smith, Jack Cogger, and Liam Henry as the reserve. No excuses. They should be winning this game 13+. They really should be pumping the Tigers here. Yeah, this should be a cricket score. But I've seen crazier shit happen. Ins here, Brent Naden, Dane Laurie, David Nofaluma, Justin Matamua, Sean Bloor, and Tristan Riley are the ins for the Tigers, with Asul Kepoa and Charlie Staines being out. Jareen Buller is the fullback, with David Nofaluma and Junior Tupou on the wings, Stafford Tor and Brent Naden as the centres. Good to see Brent Naden there. And back, because he played really well before he got injured. Brandon Wakem was the 5'8", Luke Brooks as the halfback, with Stefano Utukamanu and David Clemmer front row. Apisai Kodawai Sau was the captain and in the hooker, with Isaiah Papali'i, John Bateman back row, Fanua Pole is the lock. That is a starting forward pack for the Tigers. This is what you guys... This is pretty much the starting team here for the Tigers, lads. Like, it really is, besides Charlie Staines. Or Dwayne, I guess Dwayne as well, but... This is the team a lot of people were saying they're going to make the top 8. It's like, there's a reason... Now you understand where I was coming from. Why I said that it was crazy to say this team was a top 8 contender. It's crazy. That's a great forward pack. But again, your halves really dictate a lot of that. Like, truly, your halves really dictate exactly what the forward's going to be. And, it's tough times for the Tigers, man. I sympathise for them. Not the organisation, for the fans. Jake Simpkin, Joe Offahengawi, Alex Twell, and Tommy Talau is the interchange, with Justin Matamua, Alex Seafar, Sean Bloor, Dane Laurie, and Tristan Riley as the reserves. You guys know what I'm tipping here. I'm taking the Panthers. I'm going to take them... I'm actually going to take a 1-12. I'm going to actually go... I could get really slapped here. I could get really slapped with this being the margin. I'm going to take them by... No, you know what? I'll take them by 12, so at least I can have that gap if there is a major blowout. It's only 2 points, really, but... I don't know. I feel like the Tigers will just stick in it, man. I think they'll lose by 12, but not... And by a convincing 12... But I feel like the Tigers aren't going to just get absolutely wiped the floor with. They've just had a way of sticking in games. But again, it's a bit of a risky one to do there because the Panthers could win this game by 50. Like, they could win this game by 70. Truly, they could. But I'm going to take the Panthers by 12 there in a convincing 12 as well. Get my eyes on Eddie Mouse says, instead of tipping Panthers or Tigers, it should be Panthers on the clock. You can make that argument for sure. Miles is Tigers 13+, surely, good luck. Til Chunga says, I wish the Broncos would take some games to rural areas. Yeah, I'd like the Titans to do it as well, but in the same sense, maybe, I don't know if there's any, there is no stadium in Byron. because look, with Canberra, it's relatively close. Wagga Wagga, right? It's close enough, right? Panthers obviously Bathurst, Mudgee for Manly is still near Sydney. These teams take him to the rural areas, which is at least somewhat reasonable with their team for their catchment area. Reasonable. The Titans, I think, take it to Cairns and whatnot. The Dolphins obviously taking some of their games to Sunshine Coast later this season. So yeah, look, I agree. Obviously, it's great to see Eels take Darwin, which is a big outlier, but I would love to see the Titans do the same, as you obviously said with the Broncos. But it's like in our area, there's no real kind of, unless there's is there a stadium in Mount Isa? Is there a stadium in Mount Isa? That'd be actually pretty interesting to see a game out there. It'd be super hot, though. It would be super hot. Brighton says, unlucky with the round 9 loss, Tigers maybe next week chins up. Maybe next week chins up. Medvedev says, what do you think of Whiteley, the Raiders? We spoke about that already. EA says, Panthers have a bad game in them and the 4-pack isn't that strong this week and PG playing the centres, the defence will be tested. Buller and 12 score their first try, Tigers 1-12. I think you're wanting that to happen and hoping that to happen. I don't think you think that'll happen. But in the same sense, I would love to see it, mate. I would love to see it. Miles says, we need to drop Brooks, move Wakeham to 7 and put Laurie at 6. Yeah, but they're not going to do that. I can understand where you're coming from, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Jay says, man, Isa is hot as balls. Yes, it is. But in the same sense, it'd be great to see. Darwin is too, Jay. Darwin is too. We just saw a game between the Eels and the Broncos at Darwin. Tyrock says, we pick Bunnies or Bronx. Go back and have a look. Fatima says, Titans just need to play good in the second half. Yep, absolutely. Elijah Moya says, big up for the South of Whiten. Okay. Fatima says, 28-8 to the Panthers. Malcolm says, Tigers need to win desperately. I can see 28-8 as well. I could. Super Great Man's Panthers 38-14. Miles says 12 will get in for a try and goal point to win. I would rather that happen at Campbelltown or Leichhardt. I want that to happen there because I know that people will rush the field. If it happens at Bathurst, maybe, but it just won't mean as... it'll be great, but it won't mean as much because I know that people are going to rush the field if 12 scores, but it's not... It won't happen if it's an away game, and this is technically an away game. Memphis says it's weird because the Tigers have had their close matches against the Dogs and Eels, but just couldn't get over the line. Do you feel that this match would sort of be like those previous matches? I do. I think that even though the Panthers could wipe them, I feel like the Tigers would be up for it. They'll play up to their opponent, but I do think the Panthers will win the game still. Panthers 46, Tigers 6. Can see that too, Harry, for sure. Imagine Peach getting a hat-trick. Look, the team he's playing for, the ball distribution that he's going to be receiving, mate. It's definitely a shout. Malcolm says, I've been where the Tigers been, thinking should just close the team. Yep, I'm there, right now, but I just stick through it, I'm there right as we currently speak, Malcolm, with my team, but in the same sense, I back my team, I stick by my team and support my team through it all. But it ain't easy. It definitely ain't easy. Brighton says, at least Darwin's close to the ocean, copping that sea breeze. Mount Isa is in the middle of nowhere. Let's just pretend like he said in the middle of nowhere. He said it's whoop whoop. Alright, let's move on to the next game. It's in the middle of whoop whoop. You look at the end of the earth just over there. It's not the end of the earth, but you can definitely see the edge right there. You can see the edge right there. Alright, we go into Sunday games now. This Sunday games. And we've got the New Zealand Wars, baby. New Zealand Warriors in 7th, taking on the Sydney Tooksters, the Roosters, in 9th position. Obviously, guys, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. Back live again. Sharks Cowboys tomorrow night. But the Warriors come in this game as $2.54 underdogs to the Roosters, $1.52. This is at Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland, so it really helps them going back there. They've been good there so far this season. Besides the Knights game, but they still won that game. The Warriors are in a tough predicament. They've lost a couple of players here. We'll get into it in a second, but they've lost some pretty significant players to their team. And this is where I'm going to struggle to tip them because they've lost some significant players, not just any players. They've lost some big ones. They had a good performance against the Storm before. They just were obviously too exhausted. I know people are complaining with the referees. Warriors have an ability to solely lump everything on the referees. It has always been a case. I do think there was some 50-50 and controversial calls last night, but the fact of the matter is, I just think that the Warriors got exhausted because of their injuries. I think that's what lost them the game. I don't think it was the referees who lost them the game because I still don't definitively see the touch of the hand from the Storm for a knock-on. I still think that because it got called a try on the field, I think it's inconclusive and I think the right call was made. But again, people can have their different opinions. That's fine, but you can't conclusively tell me that the bunker could see that. I couldn't personally see that. If you could, congratulations, but I couldn't. Warriors were unlucky, but you could just see how exhausted they were. When Munster broke through that line, you knew it was game over. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't get anything done there. And I don't think the Storm were fantastic, but they just knew how to grind a game as they've done for 20 odd years. They are the primo of that. And the Warriors found that out the unlucky way. But again, it was a solid performance and a commendable performance considering the injuries that they did have. Roosters and mid-game too. Roosters, on the other hand, obviously they beat the Dragons 27-26 yesterday. They have not been impressive at any point of this season. That's why they're in 9th position, and they were lucky. And I will say this, they were lucky to win that game yesterday against the Dragons. If Zach Lomax is not kicking their kicks, the Dragons win that game. The Dragons scored 5 tries, the Roosters 4 tries. The Dragons scored more tries, but they've got a clown who kicks it for them. Right? They've got a guy who can't kick, and I call him a clown. You guys know the reason why I do, because we've got like a personal issue, but like he just can't kick. Like he lost the game against the Titans by missing the kick. He lost the game against the Raiders because he missed multiple kicks, and then he missed 2 kicks against the Roosters and handed the Roosters a win in really grindy conditions. But you know, it's rough. It's rough for the Dragons, and it was lucky for the Roosters. You could make an argument for lucky, but again, you can still just say they deserve the win. Whoever won that game deserved the win there. Roosters, obviously, they should be a lot better than what they are, but I do think it comes down to the 4-pack. I don't think their 4-pack is as good as everyone thought pre-season. Their back line hasn't really been feeling it either. It just seems a little bit gluey. I don't know. It just seems a little bit, it hasn't gotten free-flowing yet. Truly, I don't think it's been free-flowing yet, because you look at that Roosters back line or the Titans back line. The Titans back line absolutely fires when it's on. Absolutely is electric when it's on. One of the best attacks in the league when it's on. But the Roosters are just it's start right now, right? Very start. So, yeah, it's interesting what's happening with the Roosters at the moment. It just seems like they're getting through their games and they're getting through their motions, but it's not as electric as we thought it would be. But let's get into the 2-team lineups here. Ali Leotea, Dimitri Sifakula, Kalani Going, Ronald Volkman, Tane Tuapiki, Wade Egan, and Zion Mai'u are the ins. Great in there with Wade Egan. But the outs, Chance Nil Crockstar, Jazz Davunga, and Tohu Harris are the outs. That's 3 huge outs there for the Wars. Tane Tuapiki is the fullback, which he's been good this season, to be fair. He has been good when Chance hasn't been playing. And Dallin Wateni Selesniak, Edward Kosi on the wings, Marcelo Montoya, Adam Pompey centres, Dylan Walker 5'8", and Sean Johnson's the halfback. But I believe Dylan Walker's probably going to get suspended for 2 games. I'm pretty certain he's been told he's going to get a 2-game suspension. So you probably see... who do you see come into this team? Who would you see? Oh, we'll get to it in a second. Adam Fanor-Blake is the front rower alongside... Oh, sorry. I should go back here. Dylan Walker 5'8", Sean Johnson as the halfback. Adam Fanor-Blake and Bunty Affle as the front rowers. Wade Egan, number 9. Jackson Ford and Radha Nilgore are the back rowers. And Josh Curran is the lock. Freddie Lussick, Bailey Sirenen, Tom Ali, and Viliami Valea are the interchange. With Dimitri Sifakula, Ronald Volkman, Ali Leotea, Kalani Going, and Zion Mai'u are the reserves. If Dylan Walker is out... I'm pretty certain Volkman's a halves, isn't he? I think Volkman probably comes in there. To be fair. But I'm not too sure a great deal about their depth in this position. But Dylan Walker being out would suck, because they've obviously already lost Tamari Martin since a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, the Warriors are going through it in regards to injuries, and a huge loss there with Tohu Harris as the lock. Really huge. I know Josh Curran is great, but at the same time hasn't been feeling it this year. Huge loss with Tohu Harris and also Chance and that fullback. But Tane should be fine. Jazz Tafanga is also a real massive tackle bot, man. He knows how to make a tackle. He knows how to defense. So, yeah, it's 3 big losses there. Roosters here. Fletcher Baker, Jake Turpin, Nat Butcher, Nathan Brown, and Sam Walker come in with Daniel Tupou going out. Obviously, Tupou got injured. James Tedesco, the captain, he's the fullback with Corey Allen and Jackson Paul on the wings. Corey Allen, big yikes. Joseph Swali'i and Paul Morosky are the centres. You got Joe Manu as the 5'8", Luke Keary is the halfback. Jared Warrior-Hargraves and Lindsay Collins front row. Brandon Smith is the number 9. Egan Butcher, Nat Butcher back row. Egan Butcher was incredible against the Dragons. I really, really loved what Egan Butcher was doing against the Dragons. He was just so good to watch, man. Finding gaps everywhere. Really, really positive. And Victor Radley, the lock. Obviously, he is under a lot of controversial discussion points right now in regards to if that was a sin bin or not. Because his name is Victor Radley, and because it looked like live that it was a shoulder to head contact, I still think it's head contact, but I also think shoulder does connect. But overall, I think going back and having a looking at it after the live stream, I think that, yeah, it's probably just because his name's Victor Radley, because the bunker did review it. If the bunker looked at that and saw that, I don't think that you simp in there. I can understand the live call from the on-field referee, but the bunker to say that, I don't know. I don't know. But then again, I didn't really know at the time. So, no, but they get different angles and whatnot. I don't know. Tough one there. But Victor Radley's name, you don't want to have a name for getting sin bins. 3 sin bins now, and the other ones were fair. That one, debatable. Interchange-wise, Drew Hutchison, Angus Crichton, Siteli Tupanyoya, and Matthew Lodge. With Fletcher Baker, Sam Walker, Nafahu White, Jake Turpin, and Nathan Brown as reserves. The only reason that I'm going to tip the Roosters here is because of the outs here for the Wars. But I genuinely believe that this is a near on impossible game to tell me guaranteed that you got it right and you're going to get it right. The Roosters have been underwhelming this season. The Wars have been great this season, especially at home. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to acclimatise to life without three big players in Jazz Tavanga, Charles Norclockstar, and Tall Harris. Yes, they get Wade Egan back in the 9, which is massive. He's been huge this season. But it's going to be a real struggle, especially if Dylan Walker's not playing as well. If he is suspended, like I said, they're going to find this really, really tough here against the Roosters team that is still out of the 8 right now. And they've been going into the season with the arrogance and egotistical notion that they are the best team in the comp by a long way, and that everyone was lucky to even be gracious to be in the competition with them, is what we heard from how these boys were talking about each other. So yeah, I think the Roosters need to really prove themselves in this game. It's an unlucky little run here for the Wires. They're going to buy in a couple of weeks, I'm pretty certain. But I'll take the Roosters. I'll take the Roosters and I'll take them 1-12. I'll give the credit to the Wars because I do like the Warriors. I want to see them do well this season. Titans and Warriors have a really, really good, close kind of bond. Not a rivalry. It's a rivalry, but it's a great rivalry. It's not any kind of hatred there at all. I would love to see the Warriors do it, but I just think that the Roosters will be too good here today. I think the Roosters will be too good. All right, let's give a look at the chat. Brighton says, coming to Wars. Jay Hayes says 11 likes to hit the 50. Like the stream. Get it, the likes going. Come on. To be honest, it was 70-30 calls, not 50-50. Okay, Warriors fan. Tyrock says, wise chance out, bro. Carried the super coach. Well, he got injured with 20 minutes to go, mate. He wasn't there for the last 20 minutes. He would have got a bigger score, mate. It would have been a bigger score. Brendan Westling says, Warriors only lost last night purely because they lost troops and ran out of energy. Absolutely. That's exactly right. I believe they win that game if they didn't run out of energy because they literally had no bench by the end of the game. Brighton says, the Roosters have been slowly putting it together. I wouldn't want to play this team at the end of the season, but right now Warriors could still pip them even with the outs. Have they been putting it together, though? They still gave up 26 points to the Dragons. They had that game won a couple times, really, but then just threw away big leads. They had big leads, and Dragons kept coming on them. And the Dragons are always up for an anti-day clash, but again, they still got 26 points there, the Roosters, and they scored 27. And realistically, they actually should have given up 30 points. But Zach Lomax is a cat and can't obviously get his kicks, so... Yeah, that's the issue there. The Roosters, they can be very thankful they got that 2 points, but it was close to them not getting it. Brandon Weston says, by the way, thank you, Lord BKR, for breaking Zach Lomax. Jazz is overrated. Yes and no. I still think Jazz Tavanga is a good player. Mevita says that conversion kick from Lomax when they drew 26-26 against the Chooks looked pretty dreadful, because it was. It wasn't an easy kick to put through the sticks, but it didn't even make distance. Have a look at Tanner Boyd. Tanner Boyd is like 95% for the season so far. Tanner Boyd is like 95% of his conversion for the season so far. He's unreal, and he gets a lot of those from the wing. Lofiana Camperera scores heaps. Sami, whatnot, they're always in the wing. Tanner gets it, Zach has got like 10% of his kicks in the last 3 weeks. But Butch performed incredible in that match. He did. He really did. Fatima says, I want the Warriors, but the Roosters will win. Same you. Mevita says, Butcher won best on ground that Anzac match, right? I'd be surprised if he didn't. I'm not sure. I know he's my best on ground, but I don't know if he was exactly what happened. Sal's family says, I'm going to get 100% right, Blaze. Boom, told you. I don't even know what you're referring to. I don't actually know what you're talking about. True Warrior fans know this will be difficult and unlikely. Yes, Malcolm, but there's definitely a chance of them still, for sure. Mevita says, I would love to see the Warriors win this match. I think we all would. Bree Baker says, I agree. I love the Warriors, but due to injury, I think Roosters would win 1-12. I think if we were a full-strength Warriors team, I'd tip you. I would tip you in this game if you were a full-strength team, for sure. Chris Sains says, it's hard to tip against the Warriors at home. It is. That's why I'm still giving them a lot of credit, man. That's why I'm still saying it. If this was in Allianz, I would probably take Roosters 13+ with the Warriors injuries. I would. I'd probably say the Roosters, despite not looking great, would probably go over the top here of the Warriors and tire them out early because they've got some big forwards, man. Egan Butcher was incredible. Obviously, Lindsay Collins, those kind of guys. Just everyone rattly, like just those kind of hard workers. I tell you what, the Warriors will find it tough. If it's Allianz, I think they run over the top of them like significantly. But in New Zealand, I still give that slight little inkling that the Warriors could win this game. I get that little vibe. That's why the odds are still $2.54. If you're looking at team lineups, you're probably saying the Roosters should be $1.10, $1.20. Tyrex, what round would you use a Joker round? Double points to this year? No idea, bro. I haven't even seen I haven't looked at it like that. Some going Tanner Boyd better than Hassan El Masri. Daz, mate, love you saying that. Yes, flexed on well, be at the Manly vs Titans game. Memphis says Sloan played absolutely incredible and kept the Dragons in that match. Absolutely great seat. He did. And that's considering that we're talking about Sloan. Let's move on to the next game. Let's move on to the final game of the weekend, which is the St. George Illawarra Dragons taking on the Canterbury Bulldogs in a game that is incredibly difficult to predict. This one. Hit that thumbs up button, guys. I'm shoving you around here. The St. George Illawarra Dragons coming to the game in 14th position, while the Bulldogs coming in 16th position. I'm pretty certain they're on the same amount of points. Obviously, the Dragons are the slight favourites of $1.70 and the Bulldogs $1.16. I think with the full Bulldogs lineup, they would be favourites for this game. Probably $1.50, 60, maybe $1.60. I think the Bulldogs would be. No, $1.50. I think Dogs will be $1.50. Even no, $1.60 because it's at Wollongong. It's a Dragons home game. But the Dragons coming in 14th, obviously unlikely to lose that game against the Roosters. Were down and out multiple times, came back strong. Obviously haven't been great this season at all. Most were predicted for the Spoon. Still a shout, to be fair, but I don't think the Tigers win enough games to go above them. Dragons, they really feel like they should have won that game against the Roosters, but they've got them up but who can't kick. They needed to get a different kicker. They do. They need to get a different kicker. But the Dragons, they're exactly what we thought they'd be. They'll be there or thereabouts, but they're not going to be... They're not good. They're just not overall good. But it was a good performance against the Roosters. But again, they still lost. Bulldogs, on the other hand, obviously still the entire Bulldogs, the entire, Lakemba, Canterbury medical wards have just been absolutely full of all the Bulldogs players at the moment. It's ridiculous. They're struggling, but in the same sense, put up an effort against the Sharkies. Only lost by 13 points there. And late too. The Dogs were in that game into the last 5-10 minutes of the game, realistically. Maybe it's last 10 minutes and Nico Hines. It's Nico Hines, baby. He's bloody Nico Hines, baby. Gee whiz, he's bloody unreal. Sexy man in the wet. Don't talk to me in the dry. But in the wet, wowee. Obviously the Bulldogs gave it a good crack there despite all those injuries, and I think that they will definitely give it a good crack here, but this is a very, very up and down 50-50. This is a pure 50-50 game for me. Especially with the Bulldogs making a couple of changes as well. Look at the Dragons team here. Billy Burns, Jaden Sullivan, Max Finai, Sione Fainal, and Vilami Fafita are the ins, with Tautau Moga being out. That's a big out there because Moga has been really good this season. Tautau Moga has been really good this season. I was talking to Ados the Great last night, and we were talking. He was saying Ravalawa was going to find it tough to get back into this team. And it's like, I don't think Ravalawa finds it tough to get back in this team. I think Matty Finai actually finds it tough to keep his spot. I think that you keep Ravalawa there, and also you have Tautau Moga right now with the way he's playing. He's been getting tries galore. But the fullback Tyrell Sloan, he was incredible yesterday with Matty Finai and Max Finai on the wings. Moses Sully and Zach the Taxman Lomax are the centres. Tautau Moan is the 5'8". Ben Hunt, the captain, is the halfback with Michael Mollo and Blake Laurie front row. Moses Mbai is the hooker. Ben Murdoch-Masila and Jack Bird back row. Jack DeBellin is the lock with Jacob Little, Jaden Hunt, Toby Couchman and Josh Kerr interchange. Zane Musgrove, Jaden Sullivan, Billy Burns, Iviliame Fofita, and Sione Finau are the reserves. So, the Dragons coming into this game with what you would expect. They were coming with obviously just Myers Ravalawa and also, I guess, now Tautau Moga, which you wouldn't have come into the season thinking was a massive loss, but it is. It is, considering their forward package is so underwhelming, though. It's so underwhelming, them, man. Truly. And obviously their back line also. Moses Sully's been good, as you'd expect, but and Tyrell Sloan's been great, but Max Finai, Clown Lomax, and Matty Finai are not necessarily living up to it for me at the moment. Moving over to the Doggies, you got Fatmanu Brown, Carl Oluwapu, Curtis Morin, Reece Hoffman, and Samuel Hughes coming in, with Andrew Davey going out. It's another four going out. I don't know if that's an injury or if it's just been dropped. Hayes Perm is the fullback with Declan Casey and Braden Burns on the wings. Jake Avarillo and Paul Alamorti on the centres. Josh Reynolds, the 5'8", comes in for Kyle Flano. Matt Burton, the captain, he's the halfback. Max King and Tavita Pungai Jr. front row. Reid Marnie's the number 9. Corey Waddle and Jacob Preston back row. Raymond Fatalamara is the 13. You got Curtis Morin, Jaden Ockenbaugh, Dasmo's Harriet player. Samuel Hughes and Ryan Sutton interchange with Fatmanu Brown, Kyle Lawapu. Good to see him maybe getting a crack either this week or next week. He might get added to the team. I don't think so. See how Josh Reynolds goes, and then maybe Kyle Lawapu comes in. Reece Hoffman, Jarrell Skelton, and Carl Flanagan are the reserves. So Flanagan does finally get dropped there. I'm going to take the Dragons here. Although I'm not, confident at all. But I'll take the Dragons here, considering they're in Wollongong for starters. And also because I think that they had a good enough performance against the Roosters to warrant a tip here. I also am concerned with the fact that the Dogs were close enough to the Sharks. And the Sharks are a good team. Better team than the Roosters. Obviously beat the Roosters last week. So I think the Dogs do have it in them to win this game. But I just think that there's still, obviously, no Josh Ricard there, no Jacob Carraz there. Their backline's a little bit of a shambles at the moment. I'm not convinced in those centres, and I'm definitely not convinced in the fullback. I'm not convinced in the 5'8". Reid May's not been exceptional this season. You know, I'm not convinced in that back row. I'm not even 100% convinced in the front row, to be fair. I'm not convinced in the Dogs. I'm just not, and neither am I with the Dragons. But just surely they do it at home. Surely. So I'll take the Dragons, but that's a close one. I'm interested to see what you guys say. That's a close one. T scored his first try against the Dragons. Yeah, he did. Star Wars Fanboy says Dogs 30 plus. Don't even need to fall on exposition. We do. Nah, but seriously, going to be a tough game with all the injuries, but I believe we win. Memphis says, how many players overall do the Doggies have out at the moment? Something like 7 or 8, or maybe 9, but not all of them are starting players. A lot of them, there are also depth players, but they're like the depth players to the starting players. It's not as gigantic as it was, but it is still very impactful for sure. Brighton says, Red V versus Blue V. Exactly right. Get one something about the Dragons 30, Dogs 22, Sloan score 3. That is a Dragons fan commenting that. Star Wars Fanboy says, we got both wingers, starting prop, starting second row, and 3 out of our 4 bench. Yes. So great man says, how about this, Jay? Hazmal, Mazri, and Tanner is better than Maxi Taxi. How about that, mate? Brighton says, Blaze has officially named them the Bulldogs Medical Ward. They are the Bulldogs Medical Ward, mate. They are the Bulldogs Medical Ward. It's actually the Canterbury Medical Ward, Brighton. Get it right, son. Tyrex says, should start a petition to drop Lomax to reserve grade. Nah, man. You know, again, like, look, I in regards to Lomax, right, he's receiving karma for being a bit of a dickhead. Right? But in the same sense, you've got to also understand that, like, he's obviously mentally going through it, right? It's mentally tough. I'm going to slap it online because he was a dickhead to me. Like, he went and took it beyond the banter of a rugby league game, right? But I don't want anybody to have to struggle mentally, and I don't want to encourage the genuine hate of a player, because Lomax has a lot of potential as a player. He always had, but he never lived up to it. And it's probably because the guy buys into his own hype, you know, and his comments towards me prove that to me gigantically, that he bought into his own hype and didn't live up to the expectation. He throws balls into row 20. You know, he can't make a kick to save his life. He's not as good as he thinks he is. He could have been as good as he thinks he is, but he's not as good as he thinks he is. But I never want to genuinely encourage people to hate. It's banter, it's fun, it's a laugh. Yes, obviously, we individually with each other have beef with each other, right? But I never will encourage anyone to go and put more mental health pressure on him or a player when things aren't going his way. Yes, I will laugh during the game, but that's it. Then we move on, right? And he obviously knows he's not playing well. That's the reason he obviously reacted the way that he did with me. But yeah, no petitions to start up a drop Zach Lomax thing from me. No, not at all. Get one something now says, in my opinion, Dragon Spine should be 1 Sloan, 6 Amon, 7 Hunt, 9 Sullivan. Sloan 1 Amon. Yeah, I don't mind a little, but yeah, Sullivan has been playing well in the Reggies, I'm pretty certain I've been hearing. I haven't seen it, but I've been hearing it from Dragons fans. I personally think Hunt should go hooker, in my opinion. A bit of a waste. Brighton says he's going to be too tired to carry the team then. Memphis says, wife's name, actually I agree with that. Sue Great Man says, Bulldogs 28-18. Rabbitohs says, you got a magic round, I will be on Sunday. Only the Sunday games. Zen Shorts, Webber and Flano, they dropped him. Tyrex says, wasn't Lomax in the ins into the New South Wales team? He was. Jay Hayes says, he put all the tickets in his chook raffle. He did. He put all the tickets in his chook raffle, mate. He did. Salad Family says, you know, if you're having to play knock and ball as a bench forward, then you have an injury crisis. You dog fans just don't give up on Ockenbore. I get it though. I do understand. Memphis says, I think you're right. I feel like Lomax is going through a tough process right now. It's going to be hard for him, but he just needs to push through it. Yeah, absolutely. He just needs to push through it. But yeah, don't buy all the tickets in your own chook raffle. And then you won't be in this situation. But best of luck to him, man. You know, if you're a professional rugby league player, then it means that you obviously have the ability to do what you can. Like, you obviously have a great amount of ability, but it just isn't working out for him, obviously, very very obviously. But there we go, guys. That's it. That's my tips here for this week. Let's quickly go here and have a look at what the tips were that I did decide to go with. Obviously, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Guys, if you've got any last questions before we jump off, obviously we'll be back tomorrow night anyway. So, yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night anyway for the Sharkies and the Cowboys game streaming. But let's go have a look here quickly what we did choose to go with this week. So we had the Sharkies to beat the Cowboys, the Eels to beat the Knights, the Rabbitohs to beat the Broncos, the Raiders to beat the Dolphins, the Titans to beat Manly, Panthers to beat the Tigers. We went the Roosters to beat the Wars, and also the Dragons to beat the Bulldogs there. So, yes, that is the tips for this round, and we'll just see if you guys have any last comments before we do jump off. But again, we will be back. We will be back tomorrow night, and probably about an hour early. So. Fatima says Bulldogs went 18-16. Chris Same says thanks for the stream up at Bunnies. Appreciate you, man. Good luck. It will be a big stream. It'll be great fun for that Broncos versus Rabbitohs stream on Friday night. Memphis, what game am I looking forward to most this week? Obviously, I'm going to be in Manly. I'm going to be flying to Manly, or flying Sydney, and then going to Manly for the Titans game. I think that if I'm going to be realistic about what my favourite game this week is outside of that one, it'd be Broncos Rabbitohs, because there's so much weighing on it. There's a lot on the line there for that game for both of those teams. A lot. Specifically, though, the Broncos. Like, that is a big game with big players out that they need to win, in my personal opinion. Bonesy Boy says up at my Titans. That's exactly right, and that's exactly how I will leave this stream. But I appreciate you guys. Like I said, thumbs up, subscribe. I'll put the timestamps there, and let's get it rocking tomorrow night for Sharkies Cowboys. Alright, guys, thanks for watching. Catch you later. See ya.